thrill me.
This show is part of the Thrill Me Podcast Network. Experience more on Facebook and YouTube.
It's Review It Man, reviewing what he can. Movies are his jam, so let's get twisted, man. It's Review It Rob.
Hey yo, welcome into a new episode of the Review It Rob Show. Appreciate you hitting that play and checking it out. This week's episode, we're going to be looking at the Shudder original film that released over the weekend called Infested. That is a horror film, of course. As well, got a lot of horror news for you this week to go over, man. So that'll be what we're dealing with on this week's episode. Without further ado, like I mentioned, the film we're going to be talking about this week, spoiler-free as always, is Infested. Debuted over on Shudder over the weekend. As of April 2024, there is not an official rating for the film. MPAA's decided to not give it one, but they're saying it is close to an R rating due to language and intensity. The film is 1 hour, 46 minutes long, and it's classified as a horror, mystery, thriller film, so that is the trifecta of awesome. Like I mentioned, it is on Shudder currently. Film synopsis basically follows a person who gets a spider, brings it home because he likes to collect these kind of animals, these exotic animals and all that stuff. Lo and behold, the spider, of course, gets out and ends up infesting the freaking complex that they're staying at. It's basically the quick way of going through the synopsis there. So that leaves, of course, the person who brought the spider there, as well as his friends and the rest of the people in the apartment, to find a way out from these bloodthirsty creatures. Rotten Tomatoes critics actually have this film at a 95%, while the audience score is at an 88%, and IMDb has it at a 6.6 out of 10. So what were my thoughts on this movie? Now, first things first, I need to let you know about this film to get it out of the way in case you're wondering about wanting to see it. Like I said, it's on Shudder, so of course you have to have Shudder. If you don't have Shudder, then I believe there should be maybe some other options for you to check this film out. Let's pull that up real quick, but of course Shudder's going to be the easiest way. Yeah, you can watch it on YouTube with a subscription, Sling with a subscription, Roku with a subscription, Amazon Prime with a subscription, but of course, Shudder, best way to go. It's like $7 a month, and if you're a horror fan, you probably should already have Shudder. Let's see. So that's one thing. You can check it out right there. So that's one thing to get out of the way. Second thing to get out of the way is this film is in French. So if you have a problem watching a different language film, this will not be the movie for you. Now, there will be subtitles that pop up at the bottom of the screen in English, or, of course, you can change it to whatever language you may need it to be in. But beginning of the movie, they don't pop up. I guess they want to just keep that part as all in French for feel, I guess. But it does eventually pop up later on with the English subtitles and all that stuff. So if you don't want to watch a movie based on it being in a language that you don't know and don't want to read subtitles, that may be a reason you don't want to see the movie. Secondly, a reason you may not want to see the movie, as I mentioned, and you can tell by the title, is an infestation movie of spiders. So if you're scared of spiders or insects or creatures of any kind like that, again, mostly spiders with this movie, then again, this is not going to be the movie for you because there is a ton of them in the film. Getting that out of the way, the actual movie itself plays pretty well on the creepy factor, right? It depends whether you're scared of spiders or not. I mean, just you can kind of put yourself in the imagination area of being trapped in an area where, I mean, spiders they're hard to see most of the time, right? So, and you never know where they're at. They could be looking at you right now while you're listening to this. They could be looking at me right now while I'm recording it, right? It's that thing with them. Like they're freaky, right? So you can just kind of like picture that aspect. And when I was watching the movie and all that stuff, like it's uneasy, man. It's an uneasy feeling. They did a great job with the tension aspect and the creepy just aspect of it between the what's going to happen here, oh crap, don't put your head up in there and looking around, kind of aspect and all that stuff. So did really good with the tension and all that. The it being in a different language really didn't bother me all that much. It's easy to follow along with. It's sort of easy to, keep track of everything that's going on and follow with. The tension's good. The suspense is really good. The um, the story is strong enough. The performances are good as well. Like there's some heart-wrenching moments in this movie. I'm not even gonna lie to you on that. Most there's definitely a very heart-wrenching moment in the film, and you can imagine. Again, we're not spoiling anything for you, so you can just imagine. Like put yourself in that position. You're stuck in this apartment complex. You can't get out because it's being, overrun by all these spiders, and trying to find a way out is extremely dangerous, and you got to figure that out and everything. So, and again, I got to talk around it to not spoil anything, but I like what they did. I feel good with how the movie was. I didn't hate it. I enjoyed watching the film and all that stuff. And that's something like that's one of those things I'm glad I have Shudder because I just watch this, right? I can turn on Shudder and just watch it and finding new kind of things. Like I didn't watch the trailer for this movie going in. I just saw the poster for it on Shudder's social media feed and all that, and I was like, okay, cool, Shudder original film. I'll check it out. Um, and I'm glad I checked it out. Like I said, I'm not gonna. I don't know if it'll make my top 10 favorite films of the year or whatnot, but I mean, it came out in 2023, so I don't know if I can. Well, it came out in France in 2023. It just hit Shudder this week, so it counts as like a 2024 release for us. But I don't. It's one of those things where where you watch a movie, you're like, yeah, it was good, and but you're not going to be like overly like I don't know if I'm going to watch this movie again or not. I may at some point in time watch it again because it is very good on the suspense and all that stuff. But at the same time, I haven't watched Arachnophobia in a long time. Like that movie messed me up when I was younger, man. Arachnophobia, and that's that's like the Jaws of these kind of movies, right? And I can't tell you how many of these spider films exist. I haven't heard about many of them, but I'm sure there's plenty of infestation films, right? Eight-Legged Freaks, I don't think counts. That's more of a comedy movie, if I remember correctly. But that could, at some point actually count as well. So I like what they did. I liked how they worked it. Like I said, it did have me at moments where I'm like, "Oh crap, how are y'all getting out of this? This is tense. You got me on edge watching it. You got me feeling creepy. You know when you watch like these movies and just get that uneasy feeling while you're watching, you're just sitting in a dark room and you're like, man, and like you just there's nothing crawling on you, but you almost feel like there's something crawling on you. Yeah, I get you, man. These kind of movies get you with that. I mean, I understand the Halloween Horror Nights house that they did. Was that last year or a couple of years ago with the Bugs house? Oh, I get it. It's a creepy sensation to say the least. So overall, I liked it. I enjoyed it. I don't prefer movies that aren't just straight up in English, and that's nothing against it not being in English. It's easier to watch. I don't like reading while watching a movie personally, but it didn't really hinder the full experience for me. Like I mentioned, I was able to follow along with it well. The tension and the building and the scares were good enough to get past all of that. So overall, I thought it was a good movie. Like, I don't know if I'd give it like a full on 95%, but hey, it's all subjective, right? um, so that's crazy to see they have it at 95%, but hey, good for them, man. If they, it's always good to see horror getting some love out there, I guess, but it depends on how you feel about Rotten Tomatoes scores, I guess is the main point. But overall, it was enjoyable. I went in pretty much as blind as can be, and I like to do that with horror movies. I think horror movies are like those movies that you can do that with. You can just see the picture art. Like back in the day, you go to a Blockbuster, you'll see the picture art of a movie. You're like, oh, checking that out. And that's kind of what we got now with streaming, right? We can go through there and just boom, click, play. So overall, yes, it does a good job with the thriller aspect and the horror to be well. So if you want to check out Infestation, if you're not worried about a film that's in a different language, if you're not worried about reading subtitles, if you're not worried about spiders or scared of spiders or anything like that, go ahead and give it a try. I'm not overly terrified of spiders, but at the same time, I don't like them either, and I can see how that works, man. Like again, it's a easy concept. Like you're trapped, you don't have much of a chance. How are you going to get out of this? Right? It's not looking good. How will you get out of this? And just dark corners, sounds, all that stuff, they do a good job. And going from this we're going to go to news, and we're going to lead off with news that's connected here. So we know that the Evil Dead franchise has a film on the way. We already know that. There's another installment coming for the Evil Dead franchise as well. Now, the reason this connects to the film I just watched is that the Evil Dead movie we already knew that was coming is being directed by the same person, Sebastian Vanek, who did Infested, which is streaming now on Shudder. So, I'm sure I got the name wrong. I'm stuck with names. So, I like the idea of it. After watching that movie, I can see how he can do an Evil Dead thing. I mean, the most recent Evil Dead movie we have is Evil Dead Rise, which was also set in an apartment complex. That how he can get out of this, right? So I don't know if the next Evil Dead movie is gonna be following that. Nobody really knows except for the people making it, but we got that one. But there's another one that's being worked on right now with Ghost House Pictures. They've hired Francis Galip, who did The Last Stop in Yuma County, which is not released yet. It's coming out later this year, but Sam Raimi loves it and immediately signed him up to write and direct another Evil Dead movie this year. Quote, the project is being described as an original story that Gallup developed and brought to Raimi and team. No word on plot or who will be producing, as it's in the early days. But if you're an Evil Dead fan, 2 films currently in the works over there for that franchise, man. So get on it. You're happy. Hopefully you're happy that you're getting more stuff from the Evil Dead, man. I really enjoyed Evil Dead Rise last year. I wouldn't say that I don't think I've seen all of the Evil Dead films. I've seen the original, of course. I saw the 2013 film and I saw Evil Dead Rise. I haven't seen Army of Darkness or um, Evil Dead 2. I think that's it. And then there's the Ash versus Evil Dead show. So I haven't seen everything to do with it, but I've enjoyed the vibe of their movies. They're, they do good with the horror and the scary and the over the top. So good to know there's 2 more films in the way. Why not? The last couple of Evil Dead releases have been well received, so it's not too utterly surprising that they're doing more. Invisible Man news. We haven't heard much about the Invisible Man franchise. We've just been hearing about the other Universal Monsters kind of things that they've been working on and putting out. Be it most recently with Abigail, that's related to a daughter of Dracula story. Lisa Frankenstein, maybe not fully connected, but of course, the Frankenstein monster and all that stuff. So it's good to see the Universal Monsters still being talked about in some way, shape, or form. And of course, we have the Lee Whannell's doing the Wolfman movie that is set to come. And of course, Lee Whannell did The Invisible Man, and we've got a little bit of an update here about a sequel to The Invisible Man from Invisible Man star herself, Elizabeth Moss, who said she feels, quote, very good about the sequel's development at this point, saying, quote, Blumhouse and my production company, we are closer than we have ever been to cracking it, and I feel very good about it. We are very much intent on continuing that story, end quote. Now, I haven't seen The Invisible Man a couple years probably, but I really enjoyed it. I really liked what Lee Whannell did with that. I thought they did a very solid job with it. Some good solid scares with The Invisible Man. So I'm excited they do it again, especially if Lee Whannell is attached. I mentioned he's busy with the Wolfman and getting that going right now, but more power to him, man. I would love for this to be the ultimate twist, and this is actually the dark universe they're putting together. They just decided not to call it that, but that's my own personal hope, of course, because of how much I do love the 2017 Mummy movie, especially Sofia Boutella's performance as Aminet. But yeah, it's good to know there's something happening over there with the Invisible Man. It probably could have been left alone, to be honest with you, but I'm not upset at all if they decide to work on something else and bring that back to life over there. Speaking of being brought back to life, and speaking of franchises, the 28 Days Later team, Danny Boyle and Alex Garland, who did the director and writer for the 2002 hit film 28 Days Later, will in fact be reteaming for 28 Days Later. The Hollywood Reporter has reported that the sequel will have an incredible cast, holy crap, with Jodie Comer, Aaron Tyler Johnson, and Ralph Fiennes, who, I mean, come on. That is an incredible cast right there. The plan is for Garland to write 28 Days Later, for Boyle to direct, with Garland also planning on writing at least one more sequel to the franchise with Nia DaCosta to direct, which is currently in talks for the second installment. So they're moving in a fast way, it seems, over there with the 28 Days Later franchise. Um, there's what? There's two, 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later. So I don't think I've ever seen 28 Weeks Later, to be honest with you. But I've seen 28 Days Later a couple times. I'm not as overly enthralled with that film as a lot of people are, but I get it. And with more time passing, maybe I'll have a different feeling on it. But I wasn't as in love with it as most people are. But I get it. It came out at a time where that was 2002. I don't know how many zombie films off the top of my head were really coming out around that time, and it was a different take and idea on zombies, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it's been a while. I've been removed from that movie from a while, but I do know a lot of people love it, and I remember they mentioned 28 days, 28 years later before, and it didn't really pan out, and then now they're fully doing that again. So, hey, good on them. Go ahead and work on that. Have the best time, man. Let's see. Paramount Plus has announced that they have an all-new original film set before Rosemary's Baby coming, called Apartment 7A. This was going to hit theaters, but it has been removed from theatrical release and will be moving to Paramount Plus. Now, I mentioned there it's set before the original Rosemary's Baby film, so that means this will be set in 1965. It's set in New York City. The film tells the story prior to the classic Rosemary's Baby film, exploring what happened in the apartment before Rosemary Woodhouse moved in. Rosemary's Baby, of course, being considered an absolute classic of the horror genre. I have not seen that movie. I definitely need to get in there and see that for sure at some point in time, but good to know they didn't just completely scrap it like a certain Warner Brothers would do. They're actually moving it to the streaming service, which is, I mean, I might as well do that with a streaming service, right? So, looking at you, Warner Brothers. All right, that's basically it for horror news. So there you go. DC wise, not much to really go on. I know somebody brought up they would like James Gunn to continue one of the DC animated shows because of course X-Men '97 has done very well. So people have somebody brought it up to James Gunn. He's like, "Man, you should do this with Justice League Unlimited and all that." And James Gunn responded how great X-Men '97 was and how much that makes sense to do that and how special it is to do that, and how I'm paraphrasing here. I don't have his actual quote, but he basically said there's no need for a Justice League Unlimited continuation or reboot or anything like that, because it, of course, it did have a very good ending in its own right. It doesn't. It's not something that should be, that doesn't need that. Like it's fine. So they've got their plan over there at DC, and they're moving forward, and I'm here waiting for it, man. I've got excitement there. Let's see. In other news here, Clue. Hasbro Entertainment has closed a deal with Sony, TriStar Pictures, and Sony Pictures Television for the film and TV rights to the board game Clue. That game was created back in 1943 and was turned, of course, into a fantastic movie in 1985 starring Tim Curry. And there was a miniseries in 2011. I don't remember that happening at all. Ryan Reynolds had most recently been attached to star in the remake for the 20th Century Studios, while Fox Entertainment has been developing an animated series a few years back. Don't know how that looks, but I do remember the talks of Ryan Reynolds doing it. I guess that's fallen through because we haven't heard much about it now. Sony's got the rights as opposed to Fox, so I mean, again, good luck to them, right? That 1985 film is classic. If you've been with the show for a while, you know that I don't have a problem with things being remade. It does absolutely nothing to the original film, or new takes and all that stuff. Like, as long as it does nothing to it, it doesn't completely erase it. Now, of course, you might want to get a physical copy because maybe it's not going to be on streaming services, but it does nothing to the original film if a film gets remade. Now, if you're waiting for some more Clue stuff, you can learn about the making of the Clue film Who Done It, the Clue documentary, which is streaming on Screambox. Screambox, like Shudder, is a streaming service for horror content, man, and That's pretty cool. I didn't know that was on there actually, so I might check that out myself because I do enjoy that Clue movie. That's a really, really enjoyable movie as far as I'm concerned. So I definitely need to look in and check that out. Let's see. Other news in the other realm here. Craven the Hunter has been pushed back from its August release this year to December this year, December 13th, 2024 to be precise. It is taking over the Karate Kid's original release date, which will now move to May 30th, 2025. That puts it in theaters after the sixth and final season of Cobra Kai over there on the Netflix, man. They also moved times for a Lord of the Rings project, which I had no idea was in the works. So, what can you do? But Craven the Hunter, I think a lot of people are hoping that one turns out to be good after the bomb that Madam the Web was. Madam the Web. Wow. Madam Web was. That was not the best time. So hopefully, best of luck to him there with that movie. I mean, from the trailer I remember seeing in theaters, looked like it was all right, man. So hopefully everything works out there with that one. And Mila Kunis has confirmed that she and Ashton Kutcher will not appear in season 2 of that 90s show. Which I personally really enjoyed season 1 of that 90s show. That 70s show is one of my all-time favorite shows. It's been kind of tough to watch with the things that have happened with certain actors there, and of course Ashton and Mila Kunis have gotten in trouble involved with that, so it's probably a good thing that they're not going to be associated with season 2. It probably will help season 2 out with them not showing up there, because you know how people are. So, hey, you know, you do stupid things, you get in trouble. And it is what it is, man. But like I said, I did really enjoy season 1 of that 90s show. I like how they put it together. I like how it all worked out. It was a good time. It was a good time for me, and I'm interested in seeing how season 2 goes and all that stuff. Maybe we don't have any, cameos. Well, I do know Seth Green said he will be reprising his character from that 70s show for at least an episode or two. So we know he's returning. I mean, I'm sure they'll throw some more cameos in there as well, but I don't know how much we need, how much we're going to need them. The main character is the daughter of Eric and Donna. Jeez, I couldn't remember her name. So, maybe those two show up more, but mainly it's just Kitty and Red, right? So, either way, I had a fun time with the show. I'm excited to see what they do there, man. But that's going to do it for this week's episode. Hope you had a good time listening to it. Infested, like I said, if you're not worried about watching a movie that's in a different language and about spiders, go ahead and check it out. It's not that bad. It's actually very good at the thriller aspect, man. So go check that out and get a little creeped out by the darkness and the sounds and the spiders. And there's your news, man. So let me know if you checked out Infested over the weekend. Let me know in the comments what you're thinking about it, if you enjoyed it or not. Did it freak you out, man? Freak out, freak out. A lot of fun stuff happening on the Thrill Me Podcast Network. Make sure you're liked and subscribed over there. We have a new episode of Thrill Me weekly out where we talked about a lot of content, a lot of fun things over there, and all kinds of stuff that hits the network, man. So be sure to check that all out. But appreciate you listening to the show. Hope you had a good time. Hope you have a wonderful rest of the day, week, month, year. And as always, remember that happiness can be found even in the darkest of times if one only remembers to turn on the light. Talk to you all next episode.